If you had an emergency or, God forbid, suddenly passed away, would your family know the tiny little details of your life that they could use to notify people, pay your bills, take care of final arrangements, things like that? These kind of things are details that we don't like to think about because nobody wants to face our own death or our own shortfallings as far as becoming sick or whatever. But we are here now on the year mark of the pandemic, coming up on 3 years for me personally that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. 2 years ago, my son, who is in his 30s, had emergency open heart surgery because he had a heart condition that had been undiagnosed to that point, and it was the same thing that killed John Ritter. He had a aortic aneurysm that was bursting, and so I had to get on a plane right away. The other thing is I fell and broke my shoulder in September, so another emergency. It just makes you start thinking of the things that your family needs to know, in order for your life either to continue on if you're in the hospital or to tie up the ends of your life if you were to pass away. So in my case of the breast cancer, I had 4 surgeries in about a year. So the things about that were I needed to be able to tell my husband I take care of the bills. And so he had no idea, what bills we even have, how to pay them, how to log into them, things like that. So that is the first thing that I would tell you is you need to find a person that you trust, be it a child or a close family member or a close friend, somebody that you trust that you can give pertinent information to, that if you had an emergency or a death, they would be able to step in and access some of this information and take care of things. So in my husband's case, I have a file on our computer that actually says, our information. And so he was able to access it and take care of bills and things like that. That was also something in my son's case. I had to get on a flight and go to be with him. He was in the ER for 4 days recovering. He was in the hospital for another 4, I believe. And then, of course, you've just had open heart surgery, so he needed help at home. And so I was gone for about 3 weeks. Well, somebody has to take care of the bills. So my husband was able to use the computer password, which we both know, but I have written down in the event there's a problem and neither of us can access it. And then he was able to see the list of the bills that we have because I had all that information in a document on the computer. So even if you don't have a computer or you don't pay your bills online, have a place. You can get like a small fireproof safe, something like that you can write this information with account numbers and passwords and whatever. And you can keep that in that fire safe or somewhere where it is accessible. In the case of a fire safe, if you have something like that, you can actually lock it, and then that way if somebody were to break into the house, that information should be safe if they were to steal your fire safe. And you can give a key to that trusted person so that they also have access to it. So while I was when I had my surgeries, another thing for you to keep in mind is to have a list of people who you would want to notify if there was an emergency. So in other words, of course, if with the surgery, my children were wanting to know that everything was okay, and close friends wanted to know, but there actually were also some other people that wanted to be notified. I'm a dental hygienist. I have been at that office for 13 years, so some of my patients are more friends than patients. Several had also been through breast cancer, so of course I was picking their brain for everything, and they wanted to know that my surgeries were okay when I was done. So the point of all of this is just to make sure that you think of maybe people who might not be in your very close circle that your children or family would know because you talk about them all the time. People who might be more on the fringes, but whom you would also want to know if there was an emergency, you would want to know about it from them, or they would want to know it about you. So this brings up social media accounts. People don't think about social media, but you can put on Facebook and other accounts, your Gmail, that kind of thing. You can designate somebody who will get your information and be able to access your account in the event you do nothing with those accounts for a period of time that you can usually set. So 3 months, 6 months, something like that. So, for example, I have several high school friends who have passed away in the time since we've graduated, but I continually will get birthday notices on Facebook. It's so-and-so's birthday. And people will perpetually get on that person's page and say, happy birthday, whomever. And that person has been gone for 6 years now, and people just don't realize it because nobody has been notified, and they apparently didn't have that set up. That may not have even been a thing at the time that they passed away. But so make sure within your other list of bills and things like that, that you also write down social media accounts that you have and the access, password, username, password, that kind of thing. Because even if you didn't designate somebody, in that case, at least they could get in and put a post or delete your account or whatever your wishes were if they had your username and password. How about a will? First of all, do you have a will? So many people don't have a will, but you really, really need one. Former coworker of mine passed away about 4 years ago now, and she and her husband, who passed away like 9 months after she did, neither of them had a will. So right now, their home, 4 years later, because they died without a will, it's sitting there, it's abandoned. The apartment community or condo community can't sell it. The family members don't have access to it. I don't know what the situation is, but my point is, you really need to have a will. You can get programs like Will Maker, things like that you can put on your computer on your computer, that you can then draw up your own will. And at that point, then all you need to do is just print those papers out and take them to a notary to have them signed. So if you have an uncomplicated estate, it's still very easy for you to designate who gets what. Obviously, if you have a much more complicated estate with different properties and investments and whatever, you're going to want to see an attorney for that. But the point is, like in my son's case, at 35 years old, who in the world would have thought that he would suddenly have to have emergency open heart surgery? I mean, the doctors literally gave him a 1% chance of living at the end of that surgery. Thankfully, thank God, every day I thank God, he is still here with us and he is doing great 2 years on. But my point is, you wouldn't think of it maybe at 35 years old, but everybody really needs to have a will. Once you have the will, where is the will? So you need to tell somebody where this will is. You can put the will in the fire safe that I talked about with the other papers, things like, that you have all of that together and give the key to somebody, or you can download the will to your desktop and put it on, the computer. Just make sure somebody knows where it is. So my mother has now been gone 8 years. It's hard to believe, but she was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. And when she was diagnosed, they gave her 4 to 6 weeks to live. So at that point in time, I knew nothing about my parents' accounts. I knew at all. And so I was very thankful. It was a gift to me, really, that my mother was so organized. She had a notebook that had all of these things in it that I'm telling you about, account numbers and where they had investments and things like that. She had it in a fire safe. It was very easy for me to just step in and help to take care of things. I paid the bills for the first couple of months because my father had never had to do that before. So he didn't really know what was going on. They had been married for 68 years. So imagine now here you are and you're in your 90s and you've never done any of this and you have to step in. So it was very easy for me to help him and get things organized. So again, think about your family. The other thing to think about is the gift that my father gave me. I don't know if you've heard the term Swedish death cleaning, but it is a gift that you give your children and your family that are going to have to pick up the loose ends when you do pass away. So in his case, he went through a lot of his clothes and gave things away, and he started giving things away to my children and my niece, dispersing things, that he thought that were family heirlooms that people would want, things like that. So when he passed away, it was pretty easy for my sister and I to go in and clean his apartment out and take care of things. Just, it sounds morbid, but really start unloading stuff. I mean, you have treasures that you really love, but your family members probably don't feel the same way about them. So what I would do is start asking your adult children, if you have them, do you want, I don't know, Aunt Sally's quilt? Do you want grandma's, I don't know, photo album? Whatever. Start asking them, because those are things that literally are going to get tossed in the trash. And so at least you can give them away. People can enjoy them while you are alive. You can see them enjoying it. It's just much easier on the people who are going to have to come in and clean things out if, God forbid, you suddenly were to pass away. And speaking of passing away, what about funeral arrangements? Do you have any idea what you would want to have done in the case of a funeral for yourself? Do you want to be buried? Where? Do you want to be cremated? What would you want to do with your ashes? Things like that, things to think about. When my aunt passed away, she was also terminal, and she knew she had just a couple of weeks left. We talked frequently on the phone, and she told me at one point she didn't want anybody crying. She wanted a New Orleans jazz type of a thing, and she wanted specific jazz songs played, the saints go marching in, that kind of thing. I was able to put all of that together. Her children didn't even realize that. And so it was just nice that we were all able to do the things that she wanted because she had passed on that information to me. So think about things like that. Again, I know that these are not fun subjects, but your family and your friends really need to know this information. So, okay. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and also please subscribe to our channel. You can hit the button down below. It's free to do it. There's also a little notification bell next to it, and that will give you an alert. If you click that bell, it'll give you an alert every time we post a new video, which we do every Friday, with tips and hints like this so that you can age and play safely. So until the next video, think about all of these final things, emergency things, and then take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.